This is Newsroom. Hello. Welcome from Johannesburg here in South Africa. I'm Evan Jansen. This show is always live and broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We are also live on YouTube right now, with the whole show always available on demand on our YouTube channel now. It'll be a somber weekend here in South Africa. South Africa's Minister of Public Service and Administration, Collins Chabane, will be laid to rest at his home village of Chikundu in Limpopo. Also, the mortal remains of struggle icon J.B. Marks will be reburied in his hometown of Ventersdorp in the northwest. It's also Human Rights Day tomorrow, when we in South Africa reflect on the horrific price the freedoms we enjoy so frivolously today cost this nation. But first, let's get the news headlines from Anindoma.
Good morning, I'm Anindoma. Let's just have a look at the stories making headlines today. Preparations are underway for the funeral of Minister of Public Service and Administration, Collins Chabane. He will be buried tomorrow at the Chikundu village, his hometown in Limpopo. At the official memorial service for Chabane, Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa said South Africans should use the death of Chabane as an opportunity to stop the carnage on the country's roads. Ramaphosa was addressing mourners at the official memorial service for Chabane in Pretoria.
To calm our deep-felt agony, we must find among our youth, our artists, who will take Minister Chabane's harmonica and bira to remind us of both the beauty and fragility of life. We must compose a national song to celebrate Collins Chabane's passion for humanity and zest for life.
Meanwhile, the remains of SACP and ANC stalwart J.B. Marks have arrived at his family home in Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg. Marks' remains will be reburied on Sunday in Ventersdorp, the northwest town where he was born. He will not be buried next to his wife, who was laid to rest in Johannesburg in the year 2000. Police Minister Nkosinathi Nhleko has confirmed he is ready to present his report on Nkandla to Parliament. However, he says he's waiting for National Assembly Speaker Baleka Mbete to announce a date for the presentation of the report. President Jacob Zuma tasked the minister to study various reports on overspending on security upgrades to his private home and to make a ruling on whether he's liable to pay back a portion of the money. The president has agreed to answer questions on Nkandla in Parliament on April the 16th.
The April date is the 16th of April. We might have a party about that if you want.
Eskom has applied for an additional hike of around 10% in electricity tariffs. The proposed 9.5% hike will be on top of a 12.9% increase that has already been approved. The increase, if granted, will result in a staggering 22.7% increase in electricity for the 2015-2016 financial year. Militant group Boko Haram has killed at least 10 people in a town in northeastern Nigeria. Security sources say the group attacked a settlement on the way into the center of Kambaru on the border with Cameroon. Meanwhile, Nigerian President Goodluck Jonathan has reiterated that he's confident the country's forces will take back all territory that the group is holding within a month. In cricket, Pakistan won the toss and elected to bat first in their Cricket World Cup quarter-final against co-host Australia at the Adelaide Oval earlier. Evan will give you the latest available score there.
Thanks very much, Janine. I can tell it's a rather miserable picture. There you have it. Pakistan all out for 213 of 49.5 overs. Top score, Haris Sohail, 41. And no one getting to the 50 mark. There's 3 wickets for Josh Hazlewood. 4 wickets for Josh Hazlewood, actually. So it should be short work for the Australians as they hope to join South Africa and India in the semi-finals of the tournament. That match is not broadcast on our sister channel, so we'll keep you updated how the score develops. Now, today, Hundreds of mourners are expected at a provincial joint memorial service for the late Public Service and Administration Minister Collins Chabane and his 2 protectors at the Jack Botha Hall in Polokwane this morning. The trio were killed in a car crash on the N1 between Polokwane and Mokopane in Limpopo last Sunday. Government and the Department of Police says they will ensure that the 2 protectors get a decent burial. 37-year-old Sergeant Lawrence Letswane will be buried on Saturday at Kha Marishane, while 38-year-old Sergeant Lesiba Sekele will be buried on Sunday at Kha Mashashane village. We now go to the provincial memorial services in Polokwane that is scheduled to start in about an hour's time at 10 a.m. Our reporter Michael Moringa joins us from Jack Botha Hall. He will talk to the ANC's Provincial Secretary, Knox Siyabi. Very good morning to you, Mike. Before you do the interview, just set the scene there for us this morning.
Good morning to you, Evan, and good morning to the viewers at home. We are indeed coming to you live from Polokwane at the Jack Botha Hall. We saw MKM VA veterans. They've been here early in the morning. We have been seeing drills. This is indeed the home of Collins Chabane. This is where his political career started. We have seen him serving at the ANC. He's the longest serving secretary of the ANC in the province. He has also been with 3 departments in this province. He served as the MEC in the office of the Premier. He served as the MEC for Public Works. We have also seen him serving at the Department of Economic Development and Tourism. So there's a lot that Chabane has did for the province. Hence the ANC saw it or deemed it fit to organize an event of this magnitude, even though there were complaints that this hall is too small to can carry a memorial service to remember a person of Chabane's caliber. But to get more on that, we now have the Secretary General of the ANC in the province, Mr. Knox Siyabi, to give us more as to what does this mean to them and why did they organize such an event. Mr. Siyabi, it's a very emotional day for the ANC. Why did you see it befitting to organize an event of this magnitude?
Thanks very much. You'll remember that Comrade Collins Chabane was a member of the NEC, the National Executive Committee of the ANC, which means he was a leader of the ANC in the country. And him coming from this province of Limpopo, we felt as the PEC, we felt it fit that we need to organize a memorial service in remembrance of his memory. He has done a lot for this province. He is one of the first secretaries of the province, by then still called the region. He has worked a lot in the province to build structures of the ANC. We have structures of the ANC today in this province because of his work, his hard work. And you'll know that he's one of the longest serving provincial secretaries. By then they were still referred to as regional secretaries. I think he was so popular amongst ANC members that he was elected almost 7 times unopposed as the provincial secretary. Hence we saw it fit that we honor him. He played a major role from the 1994 after freedom, especially after elections, when he became a member of the National Parliament. He was then called back because of his hard work, his importance, and because he was still the provincial secretary. He was called back to the province to become MEC in the office of the Premier. By then the Premier was still Comrade Ngwako Ramatlhodi. In the following elections, he was then appointed as MEC for Public Works, a role he executed with distinction. At that time, combining the 3 homelands, the road infrastructure was in a bad state, but he had to play his role to make sure that the road infrastructure, if you compare the road infrastructure by then and now, you realize that those who came after him are taking from where he started. He laid a very good foundation. From there, he was appointed MEC for Economic Development. Our province is now known worldwide in terms of tourism because of his ideas. He went all out to make sure that he sell the province of Limpopo, its beauty, its serenity, and its tranquility. He was the man behind all those. He then, because of his leadership capabilities, the members of the ANC saw it fit to elect him again into the NEC of the ANC, and then he was then elected into Parliament in 2009, then appointed by the President to be as one of the first ministers in the presidency, Minister for Performance and Monitoring. And because of his performance, that is why in the elections of 2014, the President saw it fit to appoint him as Minister of Public Service, so that he's able to deal with the challenges we are facing in the public service.
Mr. Siab, we understand that at the funeral itself, we're expecting about 10,000 people. Briefly tell us about this memorial service. How many people are we expecting?
As we were planning for this memorial service, we were planning for about 3,000 people. And we didn't want to plan for more because of the infrastructure, and because we want to deal with the memorial service within the very shortest time, so that we allow the family to travel to Chikundu while it's still early. And tomorrow at the funeral, we're expecting about 10,000 people. We have put aside 120,000 buses, which are distributed throughout the provinces, which will be under the control of regional secretaries of the ANC. So anybody who has interest in using the buses as transport to Chikundu can talk to the regional offices, and they will get details on and as far as pickup points are concerned. But even during the course of the day, we'll be able to announce more details in as far as pickup points are concerned.
And lastly, Mr. Siabe, let's talk about Minister Chabani's role when he was the NEC member of the ANC. How does he assisted you as the current secretary?
What I've learned since I worked with Minister Chabani, especially in the NEC, is that he's a very good listener. And once he has listened to all divergent views, when he comes in with a solution. Hence we say he was a strategic thinker, but at the same time, he was passionate about the respect for the Constitution. He played a major role in the reviewing and amending of the Constitution of the ANC. So that is a Constitution that we respect, Constitution that other liberation movements respect, is because of his contribution. He was a hard worker. I knew Mr. Comrade Chabani, when he's given a task, it doesn't matter whether it is at night, early in the morning, he'll carry that task with aplomb. Now, those are some of the traits that I've learned from Comrade Chabani, and we hope will be able to pick up the spear where he has left and move forward, make sure that the ANC become even more stronger.
But I'm tempted to ask you this before I let you go. What will this province miss about Chabani in particular?
We will miss his guidance. He was always amongst the people of this province. Whether there is an event of a comrade, he will be there. Whether there is an event of the ANC, he will be there. He was almost around in the province. So he was almost amongst the people, and he will always give guidance as to don't go take this route, take that route. He will always educate us. Whenever you find him, he will talk politics and educate us about the ANC.
We have to leave it there. That was ANC Secretary in the province, Mr. Noxiabe, explaining the role that Minister Chabani played in this province before he was elected into the NEC of the ANC and into the cabinet. The man known as Mchabiseki, which translate into honorable. That's how he was known, the animal. It's back to you at the studio.
Thank you very much, Mike Moringa. Coming to you live from Polokwane, where the memorial service will take place today. A somber mood there in Limpopo today, as we can understand. Now, the village of Chikundu near Malamulele in the Vambed district in the Limpopo province will be a hive of activity tomorrow, as thousands, yes, thousands are expected to attend the funeral of the late Minister Collins Chabani. Preparations have been underway for the whole week to accommodate the thousands of people from all parts of South Africa. The ANC in Limpopo has arranged more than 100 buses to transport people to Chikundu. Chabani and his two protectors died in a horrific collision on the N1 between Polokwane and Mokopane on Sunday past. Now, our senior reporter, Njanji Chauke, is in Chikundu to update us on the preparations. A very good morning to you, Njanji. Thank you very much for joining us. Njanji, tell us about preparations there. Would it be fair to say that this will be the largest event ever in Chikundu village?
Yeah, Ben, the line is very bad, but what I can tell you is that it's been a very busy week for the Chabane household and for Chikundu villagers since that announcement that Collins Chabane had passed away in that tragic accident. As you can see behind me, preparations are underway just a day before he could be buried on Saturday. We know that the family earlier this morning left for Polokwane to go and identify his body. We saw a number of family members arriving here. They were taken in a bus to go to Polokwane to identify his body before the burial tomorrow, Eben.
Like yourself, Njanji, Minister Chabane is a local man, born and brought up in the Chikundu village. Tell us about the respect and how he's regarded in his home village.
The people around his home village have been supportive of the family indeed since that announcement was made. They speak very fondly of him, many saying they will miss him, especially for his role that he has played in the community, not only in this village of Chikundu, but in South Africa at large. Earlier this morning, we saw some of the pupils walking past the Chabane household here on their way to school. We stopped them a bit just to have a short chat with them. Most of them saying that he was supporting some of the food security programs there at school. He used to pay for their trips to go on those trips to the Kruger National Park. So you can see Collins Chabane, the kind of person that he was from across the board, the number of people that we have spoken to, all of them, from those people that he served with in the liberation struggle as well as the community, they really have fond memories of Collins Chabane. Also describing that this is a sad loss to the community of Chikundu because he was that person who was a beacon of hope for Chikundu, and he had put their village on the South African map, Eben.
Njanji, thousands of people are expected to descend on the village tomorrow. 100 buses are coming there. Will this village be able to cope with the influx of people?
Yes, this week we saw hundreds of people already coming through to the village. 2 days ago, there was a memorial service that was held not very far from the Chabane household. We saw hundreds of ANC members from the province, from Thohoyandou, and also from the many villages that are found here in the region of Malamulele. They spoke very highly of Collins Chabane. Some of them, they went to school with him from a very young age. One of the ladies that we spoke to said that she met Collins Chabane when they were still in Standard B, telling SABC that Collins Chabane always liked singing, just like his father. He loved singing. He was a very jolly child. And then yesterday, Griselda Lewis also managed to speak to one of the people that gave refuge to Collins Chabane during the tough days of the liberation struggle. There's a mountain not very far from the household here. As you know, that he joined the ANC at the tender age of 17. And when he went underground, obviously, he became a target of the security police. So Collins Chabane couldn't stay at home. He was underground. He will come back in the dead of the night, coming to ask for food from some of his old friends here in the community. And those people just explaining that they were also scared of the police, but they will give him food quickly. He will arrive at their house looking very hungry. They will give him food and he will rush back into the bush to carry on with his liberation struggle duties, Eben.
Njanji Chake, thank you very much for that update, coming to you live from Chikundu village, where that funeral will take place tomorrow. Proceedings will start at 9 a.m. Now we move on. The final leg of a journey that has taken nearly 50 years and span 2 continents will end this Sunday. Struggle icon John Beaver, known as JB Marks, his mortal remains are to be reburied at the special official funeral at Ventersdorp in the Northwest Province. JB Marks' remains, together with that of Moses Kotane, were repatriated from Moscow in Russia at the beginning of this month. Both anti-apartheid veterans' remains were exhumed in Russia, where they were buried in exile in the 1970s. Kotane's remains were buried last Saturday at his home village of Pella, near Rustenburg. The remains of SACP and ANC stalwart JB Marks arrived at his family home in Eldorado Park, south of Johannesburg yesterday. Marks' remains will be reburied on Sunday in Ventersdorp, the northwest town where he was born. The family say they are disappointed that he will not be reburied next to his wife, who was laid to rest in Johannesburg in the year 2000. Now, the Minister of Arts and Culture, Nathi Mthethwa, joins us in studio today. Minister Nyambose Kunjani.
Thank you.
It's going to be a very busy weekend. How do we manage all the official protocols across the country that has to be observed this weekend without diminishing any of them?
Well, we've got to do our best to ensure that all of them are accorded their status, because they are all important, including the third one, which is the Human Rights Day and activities in Utenek, Eastern Cape. So I think it is going to be a busy week, and referring to our stalwart, Uncle JB, he really would be reinterred, as we said, back to his village town. And it has been a long way for him in his involvement in the struggle, spanning from the 1920s, up until his death in 1972.
JB Marks, it's almost ironic, this town that it comes from. It's known in South Africa as a very conservative town. Can you tell us about the arrangements for this weekend in this town, and also talk a little bit about the life of JB Marks and what he meant to other struggle icons like Nelson Mandela, like Walter Sisulu?
Well, he meant a lot. JB Marks, like Moses Kotane. In fact, it's very difficult to talk about one and not mention the other. If you look at the road they've traversed in the struggle for liberation, they've always been working together. Mainly, we can attribute to them the alliance, as people know it today, of the ANC, SACP and COSATU, that in all these formations, they were key at their formative stages. And they ensured that tradition continues. Yeah. With JB Marks coming as he was from a very, challenged sector for our society, which is the mining sector, and rising to be the first president of the union there, and in the Communist Party and the African National Congress. So they contributed in shaping and molding the younger youth leaguers at the time, the likes of Madiba, who had their views about the Communist Party. But later on, with persuasion from these two leaders, they, embraced the alliance itself. And as you would know, that you wouldn't have said anything against the Communist Party to Madiba, the one we knew. But the earlier one was very much opposed to the SACP, the Communist Party of South Africa at the time.
It wouldn't be right for me not to ask you about the other official funeral that's taking place in Chikundu village tomorrow. It's been a real big setback. I don't think people realize how big this setback is for the ANC and for South Africa, and especially for the province of Limpopo, the untimely death of Collins Chabane.
Well, yes, it's really a blow for the entire of our nation. This province had, witnessed two stalwarts of the struggle, if I may put it that way, earlier on in the year, and now we have Minister Chabane. Comrade Collins epitomized what the movement is and what it should be. Those very values of our movement, of selflessness, of humility, of being principled and firm on that, but also, flexible on tactic. But he as a person was this unassuming but towering giant whose presence you'll feel even when he's not saying anything.
Mr. Minister, I understand you have a full program today, but before you go, I want to ask you about Human Rights Day. Here in South Africa today, one get a sense that amongst the youth, we are frivolous about the freedoms that we enjoy. The price that we paid at places like Sharpeville, where 69 people were killed in 1960, it would be 55 years ago tomorrow. Tell us about this hard-fought freedom and what our purpose and what we should do and how we should respect these freedoms on days like Human Rights Day.
Well, we've got to always recognize the injustices of the past, as the Constitution would say, and honor those who fought for freedom and justice in our land. With the benefit of hindsight, I think that part of the reason why people would take for granted whatever we have is that perhaps we have not emphasized more on the horrors of colonialism and apartheid. And that has created a particular picture, because we've got to say that as we move forward in reconstructing our country, we should always not forget where we come from. Forgive, yes, but not forget, because if we forget, we may find ourselves going back unwittingly or wittingly. Right now, we have challenges of racism, of Afrophobia amongst Africans, of sexism and so on and so forth, homophobia and all those things. And these are the challenges we are faced with today, which will continue to be a blight in our journey to a just and human rights for all society. But I think that we have it within ourselves to interact more with the public. We have what we call community conversations, where we discuss about these things. And we are calling on all other sectors of society, private sector, the media and everybody, to talk about this. People must know what happened in Sharpeville so that it doesn't repeat.
Mr. Minister, I thank you for joining us, for coming in today and giving us such a sober view of where we are as a nation. It's important, the Minister says, forgive, but let's never, ever forget. Tomorrow is Human Rights Day. We will be laying to rest one of our great leaders, a young man at 54 in his home village of Chikundu. We can never forget the contributions that they've made, the contribution that J.B. Marks and Moses Kotane has made to the liberation struggle in our country, to the freedoms that you and myself enjoy in this country today. We've paid a heavy, heavy price. Let's take a look at some of your views on our Twitter feed at SABC Newsroom. Nsa says, as the remains of J.B. Marks arrive home to be buried, we indeed ambivalent. Welcome home, Chief. Welcome to a free South Africa. Yes, that is the truth. Welcome home to a free South Africa. Hanyani Makumbani says, after spending time in Chikundu yesterday with the SABC team, I can attest comrades Collins Chabane was a man of dignity and a humble giant. And that is how we will remember the contribution that Collins Chabane has made. Baba Mtetwa, that is our, well, used to be our commentator, no more, but, well, a heavy weekend awaits us. But life goes on. Rest in peace. J.B. Marks, Collins Chabane, all heroes and heroines who fell on the 21st of March Amandla Aluta. I agree with you, Baba, on Twitter. 21 March 1960, we will never forget Sharpeville Police Station. 69 people, unarmed people, were shot on that day. Now, our tweet of the day. This one comes from R. Beaupre. It says, people are experiencing human rights violations so profound, there's no way to wrap our minds around the implications for the future. This as we look forward to Human Rights Day tomorrow here in South Africa, March 21. It will always be tied together with Sharpeville 1960. But let's move on and take a look at the front pages from around the globe. In Australia, The Australian reports that the radical Islamic State group has claimed responsibility for the attack on a famed Tunis museum that left no less than 23 people dead and scores of tourists wounded and upended the country's struggling tourism industry. We move to Israel, where the Jerusalem Post leads with the United States reconsidering its staunch support of Israel at the United Nations and has not automatically accepted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's statement to the American media affirming his support for two states for two people after pre-election comments that appeared to reject it. Then in the United Kingdom, The Times reports that a new class of continental-style expressways will be developed as part of an £11 billion roads revolution that's to be announced in the United Kingdom next week. Let's now take a look at what's happening across our country. We start here in Johannesburg. The DA parliamentary leader, Musi Maimane, will brief media ahead of the police minister's determination of whether President Jacob Zuma must repay money spent on Nkandla. We move to the capital, Pretoria. The Deputy Trade and Industry Minister, Mzwandile Masina, is speaking at a corporate governance and ethics seminar at the CSIR Convention Centre. And then in Bizana, the magistrates court there, 24 taxi drivers arrested for malicious damage to property and public violence following a protest. They are expected to appear in the magistrates court. Now, tomorrow, we celebrate Human Rights Day here in South Africa. It's a day that we reflect on the hard-earned freedom we all have in this country today. We shall never dare to forget that day on the 21st of March 1960 at the Sharpeville police station. A crowd of around 7,000 demonstrated against the pass laws of the time. Later, the apartheid police opened fire on the crowd, killing 69 people. Time for us to take a break. You're watching Newsroom here on SABC News. Welcome back. This is Newsroom. Tomorrow is Human Rights Day. The day will also mark the 30th anniversary of the Langa massacre in Uitenhage in the Eastern Cape. Hundreds of people are expected to gather at the site of that tragedy to commemorate the death of more than 21 people at the hands of the police. Now, we speak to our assignment editor in the Eastern Cape, Tommy Deekson, about the plans to mark this anniversary. Good morning to you, Tommy. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Yeben. Thank you very much for coming to us.
Tommy, it's emotional commemoration. Just tell us about the historical circumstances under which this massacre occurred.
Well, indeed, Yeben, it is going to be a very emotional commemoration tomorrow. As you know, that it will double up as the Human Rights Day, which comes from the fact that South Africa realized that we needed to have a day that really respects the human rights, given that we come from a terrible history of the apartheid system where human rights violations were just happening on a daily basis. The apartheid system was so brutal to an extent that killing people was just a norm to it. And so tomorrow a lot of people are going to gather at the memorial stone that you see behind me there in Utnik in Kwalanga Township. This is the memorial stone that was built in honor of the people who were killed by the apartheid government on that fateful day on the 21st of March 1985. And the way it happened, Eben, you'd remember that the context was that those were the turbulent years of the apartheid system, where it was just killing people in the townships. As you can see there, that the fires were burning, and they were burning streets, the burning houses, the burning every institutions that represented the apartheid system. And so on this day, a group of people were on their way to a funeral in Kwalanga Township. And unbeknown to them was that the funerals were banned by the apartheid government. They didn't want any gatherings of people because at the time funerals were used as political platforms. That's where they were advancing the objectives of the liberation struggle. And so they were banned. And they met this group of people who were on their way to a funeral. And they never wasted time. They did what they used to, and they shot at those people and killing over 20 people at Maduna Road. A lot of bodies were lying in that street. And that was something that the apartheid government denied at first. As you know, that was the history of the apartheid system, to always deny its time it killed people. They would always blame the people that they were the ones who actually provoked the police. But a lot of people died, and they were buried in the cemetery there in Kwalanga. And today we expect a lot of people to be there to clean those graves as they prepare for the national commemoration tomorrow in Kwalanga.
Tommy, tell us about survivors. Where are they today, and how are they remembering this tragedy?
Well, a lot of people actually survived indeed, but some of them were told that they did die weeks after the incident. Some of them are still with us today, but they are very bitter. They are very bitter about what happened because they feel that they've been neglected. They continue to wallow in pain about what happened. Some of them, they complain that they were never assisted, even psychologically, to deal with what happened. Some of them, they still carry the scars and the pain of what happened, and they would actually like to see this day given the respect that it deserves, as well as the victims actually of that day. They would appreciate if they could be given some kind of recognition. In fact, I do know that there's a foundation that has been formed. It's called the Utnik Massacre Foundation, which seeks to represent really the people who survived and the families of those who died on that day, to say that this day should really be turned around to be some kind of a day that seeks to assist people who were affected in terms of being able to continue to live with their lives economically as well as socially, to be assisted. And that struggle for them still continues, bitter as they are, but there are efforts that we see that are being made really to meet them halfway. Part of those efforts really was the memorial stone that was built on behalf of those who died, with their names on the scroll there on that memorial stone. This is part really of the efforts to ensure that those who died did not die in vain.
Quickly, Tommy, you've got less than a minute to tell us about the commemoration. Tomorrow, I understand it will be led by Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa.
Well, that was the plan. Actually, we learned this morning as we got to the office that plan has changed. The commemorations will be led now by the Minister of Justice, Michael Masuta, and this is because the Deputy President will be in Namibia on the day. You remember that in Namibia they're having an inauguration of their president there, and so Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa will be representing the country there, and then the President of the Republic, the Honorable Jacob Zuma, will be, of course, rendering a eulogy at the funeral of the late Minister Collins Chabane. And so the activities tomorrow will be led by Justice Minister Masuda, but then the activities will continue. There are a lot of plans that have been put in place to ensure that that day actually receives the attention that it deserves.
Tommy Dixon, thank you very much. That's our assignments editor, again, with a sterling job that he's doing there for us, giving us, well, the Langa massacre happened tomorrow in 1985. 21 people lost their lives. Let's take a look at your tweets at SABC Newsroom, of course. MM Ndamase says, in this Human Rights Month, it is 55 years since the Sharpeville massacre. There will come a time to say same about massacre in Marikana, says MM Ndamase. Karen Taylor says, as Human Rights Day approaches, let's remember that beneath it all, skin color, etc., we were all created in the same way. Yes, that's difficult. And then, of course, 55 years ago, remembering Sharpeville, 69 killed, 180 wounded outside Sharpeville police station. How can you forget that? Now, today's picture comes from Black Excellence. So, roads so white. Yeah, is his life worth more than mine? These are the questions that students at University of Cape Town are asking with regards to what they call oppression on campus, racism on campus, and they want the statue of Cecil John Rhodes to be moved. Let's take a quick look at what's happening on Newsroom's Facebook page. The University of Cape Town will decide next month on whether to remove the statue of British explorer Cecil John Rhodes from its campus. Then residents in Sierra Leone's remaining Ebola hotspots will be confined to their houses for 3 days next week as the government tries to eradicate an outbreak that has killed over 10,200 people across West Africa. Finally, police have launched a manhunt for 4 armed men who robbed a Vodacom shop of cell phones worth more than R1 million at the Hyde Park Mall north of Johannesburg. All of those stories and a whole lot more on Newsroom Facebook page, or go to sabc.co.za/news for all the latest news updates. This is Newsroom. We'll be back with you after a short break.
Art is a personal expression that evokes a flame from within.
Street art, it's a vast concept.
Dancing is one of the main art forms on the streets of Africa. Regardless of how it is done, the streets remain expressive. A passionate artist in the Central Business District of Johannesburg.
Yeah, I've been doing this it's been 7 years or 8 years now.
Brains lost control on what to do then. Words dispute in the mouth of a woman.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays, 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom. Last year, calls to the Department of Trade and Industry's Credit Information Removal Project, known as Credit Amnesty, as well as the Credit Ombuds call centre, increased by 48%. This led to a 60% increase in the number of complaints and inquiries relating to the removal of credit information. Now, joining us In studio today is our newly appointed credit ombudsman, Mr. Nicky Lalamoan, who will tell us more about this. Good morning to you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Morning to you.
We are an over-indebted country, no doubt about that. And half of that debt I saw in a stat is bad debt, where we're in arrears. What sort of challenges are you now faced with in your new role with South African credit?
Eben, you're correct in that over-indebtedness is one of the main problems that we have. We also have problems relating to reckless lending. And unfortunately, there's a lack of sufficient consumer education to educate consumers of their rights, etc.
One of the main complaints that you've received last year, I see, is that even after people seemingly repaid their debts, their credit information remained on record. What plans are you going to implement this year to prevent that from happening going forward?
Even last year was the year for the removal of adverse consumer information. That was the so-called credit amnesty.
Yeah.
That happened on 1st of April last year.
Yeah.
And automatically, certain records were removed. But, prior to that, we had a lot of calls to the office as to how do I get off the bureau, what is happening, what is this amnesty, whatever. Thereafter, some of them didn't come off, technical glitches or whatever the case may be, and we assisted many people in clearing their names where they were not supposed to be on the bureau.
Reckless lending is the one thing that you mentioned earlier that stands out. How are we going to deal with reckless lenders in South Africa?
We're going to be fortunate in that last Friday, the regulations to the National Credit Amendment Bill were published, National Credit Amendment Act, were published. And what those regulations now require is a proper affordability assessment. And it has a means test, and it has lots of information that one has to do to ensure that a person can afford the credit that you're giving them. So there's a proper affordability test that will be done. And if you fail to do that, it's reckless lending and regard it as a donation or loan.
Well, that's very nice to know from where I'm sitting. But let's talk about garnishee orders quickly and the regulations that's now going to be in place around this, and maybe for the layman what that means.
Garnishee orders are those, it's a term used colloquially, but it's actually emolument attachment orders. What it means is that when you get paid, the creditor gets paid before you receive your salary. And there are lots of garnishee orders out there. Unfortunately, there's an abuse of the garnishee order system. We have cases in the office where people earn 8,000 Rand a month, but because of garnishees, they're left with 11 Rand a month to live on. But what is happening right now is that there is a whole judicial review of the garnishee orders. There's a case in Cape Town in the Western Cape High Court where the University of Stellenbosch Law Clinic is taking a class action on behalf of farm workers, 16 farm workers, against a firm of attorney and collection agents. That may set law, change things, but the Department of Justice, the National Treasury, National Credit Regulator, they all focused on garnishes. They want to clean it up, and maybe we'll see something happening in terms of judicial intervention.
Finally, you guys are implementing these outreach activities, workshops that have been held around the country. Tell us about that and how it's going to help the consumer.
What we want to do, our main focus is we need to spread the word who we are. Unfortunately, not many people know about the office. We offer a service free of charge. So we go into communities, do workshops. It's part of education. It's part of our, know your rights kind of campaign, etc. But what we do as well is something called double impact. We go into an employer's premises and we train the employees of that. It's like a 4-hour session on financial fitness. What is a credit report? Know your credit rights. What is a judgment? How do I get it rescinded? Everything about financial information that you need to know.
Well, that's fantastic to hear, because in a country where half of our credit is bad debt, We need to all come to terms with this problem. Thank you for joining us today and giving us an insight into the work that you do. This is the new credit ombudsman here in South Africa. You better get to know this gentleman if you're having bad debt. Thank you, Mr. Nicky Lalamoan, for joining us on this Friday. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you.
Now, I can just give you a quick cricket update. Australia have just started batting. They need 213 to win against Pakistan. Just survive a big LBW appeal there, 7 without loss after the first over. Well, it looks like Pakistan have it all to do. But if one team can do it in the World Cup, it's Pakistan. They bowled us out for 170 odd. Remember that? That was just a couple of weeks ago. That's where we wrap it today. Thank you for watching Newsroom. We broadcast live from our studios here in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. The show, of course, repeats at 2 in the afternoon with a total rebroadcast at 5 a.m. the following day. We're also live on YouTube at the time with our show available all day on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it. Remember.